Joining us now with his view on Obama's speech is Jeff Kuhner.
Michael, we knew ahead of time. Obama's people were already telling us, many of us in the Washington press corps, what was going to be in the speech, what Obama's new Afghan war strategy is. And to be brutally honest, Michael, I believe that this will be Obama's Vietnam. I believe that we are now sleepwalking into disaster. And what this man has now embarked upon this nation is a complete and utter betrayal of our troops on the ground and of the national security interests of the United States. For what he is doing, and there's no getting around this fact, Michael, is that Obama is now committing us on a path towards eventual defeat in Afghanistan. For this simple reason, he is replicating the exact same mistakes that Lyndon Johnson committed in the 1960s when he escalated recklessly the war in Vietnam. He is coming in not hard, but soft. He is coming in not looking for a way to deliver a conclusive knockout blow, but to come in already looking to leave before we've even sent in the troops. What the Obama people have been obsessed about, Michael, is they are now looking for an exit strategy. There is an exit strategy before we even sent the troops in.
That's crazy. Sorry, crazy.
And we are making the same mistake that we made in Vietnam. There is no strategy for victory. There is no strategy for us to come in and crush the Taliban and Al-Qaeda once and for all. And we are not committed to victory because, as Obama himself said many months ago, he doesn't even want to use the term victory. Michael, what this is one of the most cynical, stupid, manipulative political moves I have ever seen in my lifetime as a journalist. What Obama is now doing is he is trying to do the impossible. He is trying to split the baby, and he can't do that. On the one hand, he is pledging to put in over 30,000 troops into Afghanistan so he can claim to the middle America, he can claim to many of your listeners, to many people in the American heartland, I am listening to General McChrystal. I am now going to give him most of the troops that he needs to win this war in Afghanistan. But then he can turn around to his anti-war left-wing base, which is already defecting. They're already now on the verge of pulling the plug on this war. Many of them are already threatening to protest in the streets of Washington. And he'll stand up and say, well, I didn't give McChrystal his full 40,000 that he wanted because I am the civilian commander-in-chief. McChrystal answers to me. I don't answer to him. And here is what I think is the most cowardly, reckless, and irresponsible thing that Obama has done. What history will never forgive him for, and what the American people should not forgive him for, is we are now coming in not with an army that is designed and supported and backed to win this war. We are coming in for crass political public relations motives.
Exactly.
Obama now senses that his support is now eroding, that his presidency is now in free fall. The economy is now mired in a deep recession. His stimulus package has failed. His tax and spend policies have failed. His health care initiative is bogged down in the Senate and in Congress. Everywhere you look, his support is ebbing and weakening. Even around the world, opinion polls now show the bloom is off the rose. In the Muslim world, Obama is now hated even more than Bush. His support in Europe is fragile and eroding every day. He has bowed to the Emperor of Japan, and he is now seen as the president who bows to foreign leaders, who bows to kings and emperors. He has now been exposed as a weak, pathetic president who is in over his head. And so he does not want to be the man who is known to have lost Afghanistan, Just as Johnson, when he inherited the Vietnam War from Kennedy, said, I will not be the man, the president, who lost Vietnam. And so he is sending those troops in. And his plan is very simple. Win a temporary few military victories in the caves and mountains of Afghanistan. Quell the insurgency temporarily. Push back the resurgent Taliban. And then set up Hamid Karzai as the fall guy. Karzai is now apparently too corrupt for us to deal with. All of these same Democrats who under the Bush years said, you can't have democracy in the Middle East. All of a sudden, they have democracy fever. All of a sudden, they're now born-again Democrats. Karzai came to power on a tainted election in August. Karzai is not a reliable partner. We need a real Democrat in Afghanistan. All of a sudden now, they have become born-again Democrats. Now, suddenly, democracy is so important that we cannot properly back Karzai. And what you heard tonight, that the era of giving a blank check to Karzai is over, is now Obama is doing what he has been doing throughout his entire presidency. He is seeking to blame somebody else for the mess that he created. Because he was the one in March who sent in 21,000 of our boys. He is the one, when the body bags started to come back from Afghanistan, he has now been involved in a pathetic, protracted 3-month review process, dithering in the eyes of the world. And now he has given the Taliban and Al-Qaeda what they want. They wanted a deadline. They wanted a time frame. They wanted a timetable. And now Obama has told our enemy, all you have to do is wait another 3, 4, 5 years, and the Yanks are leaving. The Americans are going to leave with their tails between their legs.
This is unbelievable to me.
And there in Afghanistan, where 9/11 was not just planned, it was not just implemented, it was where 9/11 was imagined. It was where 9/11 took place. It was where Al-Qaeda, led by Osama bin Laden and Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, said, here we will fly those planes into the Twin Towers and into the Pentagon and into the White House, and we will declare war upon America. There in Afghanistan, we will now send our troops into a death trap with a political leadership that is now sending them in with such strict rules of engagement. They are going in with not one, but both hands tied behind their back. This is a suicide mission. And now we are to expect that this liberal Democrat, this man who apologizes to everybody in the world, this America hater, this man who has spent his entire life spitting and betraying on the U.S. military, this man who spent 20 years in Reverend Jeremiah Wright's church, where Jeremiah Wright proclaimed that 9/11 was our chickens coming home to roost. This president, we are now expected to entrust our soldiers to him? I say no. We had one policy in World War I. We had one policy in World War II. It was victory. The Yanks are coming. The Yanks are coming. This was our battle cry. And we shook the Nazis to their very knees. We brought them literally, shook them to their very core and their very foundations. To this day, the Germans don't know how badly we hit them in World War II. They're still reeling from how we destroyed their cities and waged war upon the Wehrmacht and the Hitler's armies. And instead, this, the great American superpower, is now going to fight a liberal, politically correct war, where we send the likes of Khalid Sheikh Mohammed to civilian court trials, where the likes of Arlen Specter are sponsoring bills where terrorists have a right to sue the U.S. government.
I'm sick of this.
You expect us to believe that our soldiers are going to have the backing from Washington that they deserve? That when the going gets tough, these men are not going to be betrayed by these Chicago-style political gangsters who only care about their next approval ratings and what the latest opinion polls say? Michael, I believe we are in a fight to the finish against the forces of radical jihadism. I believe that the future of Western civilization is at stake. I am no anti-war peacenik, but on this issue, I say clearly and unequivocally, no American should die for an exit strategy. They should die for one thing and one thing only, liberty and victory. And there is no plan for victory in this new Afghan war strategy. There is no plan for us to win this war. If that is the case, the only moral thing to do, the only right thing to do, the only American thing to do is bring our troops home. Don't die for Obama's war, because believe me, when he's out of office in less than 3 years, when he's a failed one-term president and the Taliban come back to power, we will need those men and women to go back into Afghanistan and finish the job we should have finished under George Bush.
Thanks for the report, Jeff.
Michael, thanks once again, my friend, for having me on.